Hey, so let's talk about those times when you feel really overwhelmed, or maybe you even feel like you're in a bit of a crisis. What do you do other than stress, right? Because I think that's the really natural thing, is to just get balled up into all this stress. So first and foremost, stress is a natural emotion. I'm not gonna sit here and try and do a video and tell you never feel stressed, always be positive, because stress and negative emotions are part of life, right? And that's because this challenges are part of life. So when you're faced with a challenge, or you're faced with a temporary crisis, can you look at it as just that? Can you step back and just decide to be curious about it? And what I mean by that is, okay, this is a challenge. It feels like a crisis. But first, let me sort of step back and think about the fact that this is one, temporary, right? And it's a challenge that eventually I'm going to get through. And then two, just let me get curious about what's going to happen here. And what I mean by get curious is, a lot of times we're really tempted, and the thing that stresses us out the most is to try to predict the future. Is it not? So you're trying to predict the future, but guess what? The future is what? Unknown, right? And that's true for everybody in every single situation. The future is always unknown. Whether things are going well or they're not, the future is unknown. So if you can just decide in those times when maybe things aren't going so well, instead of getting so wrapped up in all the things that could go wrong and stressing yourself out even more, just kind of take a deep breath and be like, all right, let me get curious about this. And meaning, let's see what happens, right? And I don't mean to take your challenges or your difficulties and make light of them, but instead of, again, being so wrapped up and so focused on how bad things are going, or what the doom and gloom of the future, or being scared about the unknown of the future, just saying, hey, let me get curious about this. Let me see what happens. Let me do my next best step. Let me do those steps one at a time. And I'm going to take one thing, do one thing, see what happens, wait, and then decide what to do next after that. But as a whole, let me get curious. Let's see what happens. And let me go one step at a time, instead of just assuming that this is going to be really hard and disaster is waiting for me, right? So that's one way that might help you manage some stress and some anxiety around times of challenges, or even times that feel like you're in a crisis.